Listen kids, cheating is wrong. It's always better to work your hardest and get good grades by yourself. That's what your superhero role models would do, but not their creators. Everybody loves superheroes. DC, Marvel, it doesn't matter, they're all pretty great. What many fans may not know is how often the two companies blatantly rip each other off. The comics industry is a pretty cutthroat business. Creators have no qualms about stealing ideas from other comics. While both companies frequently do this, DC has some really over-the-top examples. Here are 10 Marvel characters DC copied. Make way for Captain America. Commander Steel? Tell me if this sounds familiar. It's World War II. Things aren't going well for the Allied forces. A young buck eager to serve his country volunteers for a secret experiment to give him superpowers. He then becomes a superhero for the Allied forces. The name of that superhero? No, we're not talking about the first Avenger, Captain America. We're talking about Commander Steel. Marine Henry Haywood was injured during a battle with the supervillain Baron Blitzkrieg. He then underwent an experiment that gave him super strength, enhanced speed, and invincibility. He's basically like if Steve Rogers got all of his superpowers but didn't need the shield because he was invulnerable. The only difference is Cap entered the world all the way back in 1941. Commander Steel didn't come about until 1978. This was long after Marvel had revived Captain America from the pesky block of ice. While the good Captain is a big movie character now, Commander Steel has to settle for the small screen. He had a brief stint in Legends of Tomorrow. The character's grandson Nate, or Citizen Steel, is a regular on the show, however. Looks like you win this round, Steve Rogers. The Kings of Atlantis. Last year, the DCEU successfully got us all to forget that horrible Justice League movie. James Wan's Aquaman was an incredibly fun action movie that made an ocean load of money. Game of Thrones actor Jason Momoa washed away all remnants of the kind of lame Aquaman of yesterday. This was the birth of a true action hero, the original King of Atlantis. Well, not so much. If you aren't a comic fan and you hear the phrase submariner, you probably think I'm talking about a sandwich. Fans know that this is actually the name of a classic character, Namor. Like Aquaman, he is the son of a human sea captain and an Atlantean royal. He went on to become a superhero to fight the Axis for the Allied forces. It's hard to believe, but this character not only predates Aquaman, but Captain America as well. Both of those characters were introduced in 1941. Namor beat them both to publication in 1939. While Namor may be the original comic king of Atlantis, he's definitely not the greatest. He's known in the Marvel Universe for being extremely difficult. There are multiple examples of him flirting with characters like Sue Storm and Emma Frost, while both of them were in relationships too. He's also been a villain more than a few times. Aquaman may be the second one to wear the coral-covered crown, but there's no doubt which one wears it better. That other Spider guy. Have you ever wanted to see Batman fight Spider-Man? It sounds like it would be the coolest movie ever. We might have to wait until Disney inevitably buys Warner Brothers for something like that to happen. Luckily, you can see Batman fight someone pretty close. The Batman villain Black Spider was introduced in 1976. Eric Needham was an ex-con who accidentally shot his father during a robbery gone wrong. Afterward, he became a bloodthirsty vigilante. He dressed in a strange sort of spider outfit and swung through the buildings of Gotham. He's basically a darker Spider-Man, but one who's directly responsible for the tragic loss of his father figure. If any of this sounds like a stretch, just watch his stint on the TV show Young Justice. The show makes no effort to pretend he isn't just a more intense Spidey. He even does the iconic upside-down web thing. Not only that, but he's voiced by Josh Keaton. You know, the guy who voiced Spider-Man in the show Spectacular Spider-Man. They aren't even trying to be subtle. Wasps and Bees. Last year, audiences were surprised with how great Ant-Man and the Wasp actually was. Evangeline Lilly stole the show as a titular superheroine. Paul Rudd is great and all, but that one fight where she runs on a knife was the best part. The movie also introduced original Wasp Janet Van Dyne. This character has been an important part of Marvel since her debut in 1963. She was actually part of the original Avengers lineup as well. Not only that, but she even comes up with the name for the team. DC came up with their own take on the power set in 1977. The character of Karen Beecher was introduced a year earlier as the girlfriend of Teen Titan the Herald. Eventually, she becomes a hero in her own right. As Bumblebee, she could shrink, shoot blasters, and even had tiny insect wings that allowed her to fly. Sometimes, comic companies try to hide their plagiarism. For Bumblebee, they just ripped off Wasp's powers completely. Bumblebee does have a distinction of her own though. She was DC's first official African-American female superhero. Since then, she's appeared on several animated series. Teen Titans and Young Justice have had guest roles for the character. She has yet to make a live-action appearance, but it's only a matter of time. Maybe now that we know how cool the Wasp can be, Bumblebee will get her own chance at the big screen. Behold a ripoff. Marvel made comic book history in 1966 when the cover for Fantastic Four number 48 foretold one of the universe's most fearsome villains. Behold Galactus. Galactus is a cosmic giant who travels the universe devouring planets. Over the years, he's made a name for himself as one of the most powerful beings in the universe. No matter how many times he's tried, he's never been able to devour Earth though. Those pesky superheroes sure do know how to ruin a good meal. Unfortunately, Galactus' only on-screen appearance is in the terrible Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. In that movie, he's just some sort of dust cloud. Hopefully, he'll get another shot now that the MCU has the rights to use him. DC has a version of this character who isn't as beloved. The character imperiex was introduced in the year 2000. Like Galactus, imperiex is a giant cosmic entity that destroys worlds. He was the center of the DC event Our World's at War. He really hasn't gotten a lot of use since, probably because he's a shameless ripoff of a much more famous character. Sometimes that works out and sometimes it absolutely does not. Things both man and swamp. Swamp Thing is one of the most famous monsters in the DC universe. The Alan Moore character is thought of as one of the best DC runs of all time. He's appeared in TV and movies for decades since his creation in 1971. The creature is a hybrid plant-human monster. He seeks to protect the swamp and the environment from the threat of humans. If that sounds pretty cool, you're in luck. He's getting a new TV show later this year. What's weird about Swamp Thing though, is he wasn't the first take on this archetype. The incredibly similar Man-Thing was created by Marvel just a few months earlier. Man-Thing is also a humanoid swamp monster. This character was actually created by Marvel legend Stan Lee. It stands to reason that one character must be ripped off of the other. The design and origin of the characters are almost identical. While Swamp Thing came out after Man-Thing, who knows which one was conceived first? For whatever reason, Man-Thing has never come close to Swamp Thing's level of popularity. While Swampy is getting his own TV show, don't expect his counterpart to be joining the MCU anytime soon. We are Iron Man. Iron Man has long been one of Marvel's most popular characters. He's only gotten more love since Robert Downey Jr.'s decade-spanning performance as the character. It's not a huge surprise that DC would want its own iron-suited superhero in the Justice League. What's weird is that you'd think they would have done a better job. Rocket Red is a Russian superhero who was introduced in 1987, over 20 years after Tony. Dmitry Pushkin was part of a Russian plan to create their own superhero. In some ways, he's just as much of a ripoff of Iron Man villain Crimson Dynamo. Do you remember that controversial Ivan Vanko character from Iron Man 2? That character was an amalgamation of villains Crimson Dynamo and Whiplash. Rocket Red is basically if Vanko was nice and became Iron Man instead of being a bird-obsessed weirdo. Surprisingly, this character wasn't a flat-out villain. He actually ended up joining the Justice League International team. Despite this, the character never really took off like his counterpart. This hasn't stopped DC from ripping off Iron Man in other ways though. Billionaires like Lex Luthor and Batman have both used Iron Man-style suits. Heck, even the CW Supergirl has an Iron Man suit now. Apparently, they're all the rage. Baradunia forever? Last year, Marvel movie Black Panther made huge waves. Not only was it a cultural phenomenon, but it went on to get nominated for an Oscar. The story of a young T'Challa fighting for his African throne was a surprising hit for audiences everywhere. Chadwick Boseman better get used to doing that Wakanda Forever thing literally forever. Don't expect the DC version to get that kind of acclaim though. The DC character, the Red Lion, is a very strange, obvious take on Black Panther. Matthew Bland is actually a ruthless dictator of the African country Baradunia. He's mostly known for hiring the villain Deathstroke for evil doings here and there. There is also a brief incident involving the Justice League. What's weird about the Red Lion is that he's a genuine ripoff of Black Panther. His creator, Christopher Priest, is one of the most notable writers for Black Panther. His use of the character Everett Ross was a big inspiration for the movie. The character's look and history clearly mirror Black Panther's. Obviously, this new character is some sort of commentary on the old. Fans have been scratching their heads to try to figure out just what that commentary could be. Or maybe you just wanted to have Black Panther fight the Justice League. That's a solid enough reason right there. Wolverine. But in space? Wolverine is one of the most popular Marvel characters ever. Even before Hugh Jackman killed it as the character, fans absolutely adored him. Apparently, DC did too, because they pretty much made their own version. Lobo was a smash hit of a character when he debuted in 1983. Fans love his grizzled attitude, his healing factor, and his love for cigars. They just didn't notice all these things were lifted right off of Wolverine. The creator even admitted that Lobo was basically a Wolverine parody. But hey, sometimes parodies work out. Just look at Deadpool or Weird Al Yankovic. Lobo and Wolverine even got to fight in the limited DC vs. Marvel run. Of course, Wolverine was the winner, but it was a good fight. It may be a long time before we see Wolverine on the big screen again. Luckily, Lobo will be arriving on the small screen this year. He'll join the sci-fi series Krypton for the second season. So many cults, so little time. When the evil German spy organization Hydra was introduced in Captain America, the First Avenger, they were kinda lackluster. They were something between the stormtroopers from Star Wars and the baddies from Indiana Jones. It was hardly an original concept. That's why it was so shocking when they returned in Captain America the Winter Soldier. The Russos successfully took the campy evil organization and made it into a terrifying counterintelligence network. It was really the perfect way to present an organization that's been part of Marvel since 1965. That being said, they aren't the only evil culty spy team in town. DC's Cobra is a very similar concept. This snake-themed terror group is basically a less Germany-flavored Hydra. They appeared in 1976, led by their leader who is also named Cobra. So basically, it's like if Hydra called itself the Red Skulls. What's worse is that this isn't the only one. The terror organization Hive is also pretty similar to Hydra. This team debuted in 1980 as villains for the new Teen Titans. They're also a covert terror organization with a serious wildlife motif. That organization is basically a combination of Marvel's Hydra and AIM. We can debate over which one is better all day, but we all know which one is supreme. It's definitely Cobra from G.I. Joe. At least that one embraces how wacky it is. But I will leave you with this. Hail Hydra. So there are 10 pretty wild examples of DC copying Marvel characters. What do you think? Were there any good ripoffs that we missed? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more from The Binger. Thanks for watching.